Let me introduce you to David. We met 16 years ago online. Before the age of online dating apps, people put ads on Craigslist. Yep, the good old Craigslist personal section, RIP. My roommate at the time was using it and coaxed me into it, so I reluctantly agreed. I had just gotten out of a serious relationship. I moved out when I realized my former boyfriend was struggling with a drinking problem, and it was rubbing off on me. I was drinking too much also. So I decided to get sober for a little while and just get my stuff together. Also, I was really hyper-focused on my music career. I was not looking for anything serious, but also not anything too casual. I wanted something fun, light, respectful, honest. Perhaps something part-time or short-term, not so much of a friends with benefits situation, but more like taking on a lover, like the Europeans. It had many of the more emotional components of a relationship, but without the strings, the heaviness, or the expectations. So I was kind of freaking out about meeting someone new, and I was honest about that in my ad. I got over 200 responses that day. One of them was from David. He linked me to his MySpace page, and I got a feel for his personality. He was hilarious. I showed him to my roommate, who approved, and put him in the yes pile. And he was the only one in the yes pile. So I freaked out. I took the ad down. And then the next day, I put the ad back up, and then I freaked out again, and I took the ad back down. Now, my roommate told me that I was going to put the ad back up, and not only was I going to put the ad back up, but I was going to add a photo this time. Yeah, the first 2 times they didn't even put my photo in, and I got all those responses. So I obliged. I put the sexiest photo up that I had. It was like this solo promo shot from my musical project at the time. David wrote to me again. He was in a similar situation. He was just getting out of a relationship. He didn't want anything too serious, but not too casual. He didn't want a friends with benefits type of thing. And so we were on the exact same page. At this point, I think I had over 500 responses over the course of 3 days, and many of them were people that wrote to me twice. But still, David was the only one that I had in the yes pile. But I was freaking out. So I wrote to David and I told him that. I said, hey, you are very cute, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to do this. I'm kind of freaking out about this. David wrote back, I totally understand. There's no pressure here. Let me know if you want to talk about it. I'm a pretty good conversationalist. Actually, I think he referred to himself as a pretty charming conversationalist, but it was 16 years ago. So he went on to explain that he was working as a temp, and he often had a lot of free time that he was getting paid for in front of a computer. So I wrote back to him, I think I might take you up on that. And so I did. I told him a little bit about the breakup. He told me a little bit about his breakup. And it turns out we were both pursuing music careers and had rock bands in the city. We exchanged links, and eventually the conversation turned to our interests and what we like to do in our free time. Sounds like we have a lot of the same interests, David wrote. We went on like this for a couple of weeks, and we were emailing almost every day. And one day I was having issues with my computer, and I was going to have to put it in the shop for a week. So I emailed David my number. He called me that day, and he asked if I would like to meet up. How about tonight, I asked. I picked a small cafe close to my apartment, and now I should mention I wasn't drinking alcohol at this point in my life, so I was meeting someone online for the first time, stone cold sober. And the fact that I was sober for this is actually going to be pretty important for future episodes of the podcast. So when he walked into the cafe, there was this slight tension between us. The conversation didn't initially flow as freely as it did online or on the phone right away. So I looked at him and I said, I'm really nervous. I've never done this before. And he looked back at me and said, it's okay. everything's going to be okay. And then I looked at him and I said, okay. And I was nodding nervously and I was giggling like a schoolgirl. He ordered a beer. I ordered a tea. And he didn't question why I wasn't drinking. And that scored a lot of points with me. So I just kept giggling so nervously. It took about maybe a half an hour for us to really get into the flow of the conversation. But once we did, we were good. We traded stories and we both had very crazy stories. The banter flowed effortlessly. We must have emitted some kind of a very welcoming vibe as complete strangers approached our table to talk to us. And as our date came to a close, David asked if I would like to join him for another drink somewhere else. I agreed. We walked to a music venue with an upstairs lounge, and as we were situated on a love seat upstairs near a pool table, I accidentally put my hand on David's knee. I didn't mean to, but it just kind of ended up there. And then I looked at him nervously and blushed and giggled, and then he looked at me and he kissed me. It was the most electrifying kiss I have ever shared with anyone to this day. We kissed nonstop until the bar was about to close. And about the midway point in our evening, a young woman approached us. I just want to say I'm so glad you two found each other, she said. David and I looked at each other with wide smiles and dilated pupils. And as the bar closed, David offered to walk me to my apartment. As we stepped outside, it had just started snowing. And the walk was about 8 city blocks and had bloomed into almost like a semi-blizzard by the time we reached my doorstep at my apartment. We continued to kiss in the snow for almost another hour. I don't want to leave, he said. The top of his head and coat was completely caked with white snow, same with me. And so eventually we had to leave as it was getting way too cold. But at no point did he ever pressure me to let him upstairs, which I appreciated. And this would kick off what I believe was the start of our bubble love phase. And we were luckier than most. We got almost 6 months. Yes, 6 whole months of that amazing bubble love. Thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of Not Another Twin Flame podcast. And this was Bubble Love in a New York City blizzard. If you want to hear more about my twin flame journey, please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell, and come on this journey with me. Thank you so much.